Let's face it, Netflix Avatar was a bit of a mess. It mixed up the wrong episodes in the wrong ways, but Season 2's trailer is here, so we're gonna see if it looks like it's on the path to doing any better. And we're going to see if we can piece together what each episode of Season 2 is going to be about from the evidence in this trailer. The opening shot is set in the Serpent's Pass. You can see this bunch of firebenders shooting at the serpent itself in the water, and then we get a shot of Aang fending off a fireball seemingly in around the same place. And this, we can already see one of the major changes that they are making to the series, because there are no firebenders chasing them in the Serpent's Pass episode in the original series. By the looks of a bunch of different shots in this trailer, they're going to be doing a storyline where there are refugees fleeing to Ba Sing Se with the Fire Nation closely following behind them, possibly led by Azula, and Team Avatar sort of escorting them along the way. We see that there's these refugees desperately trying to get onto a boat at Full Moon Bay, and that Zuko and Iroh are amongst them. We see there's refugees running through this forest, and firebenders are after them, and then Team Avatar is with them, protecting them. We can see people fleeing behind Aang when he stops this fireball, and we can see firebenders chasing people through the Serpent's Pass itself. Now, I don't hate this so much as a concept, because like that sense of refugees fleeing to Ba Sing Se is in the actual show. They're just giving it kind of a sense of urgency, which isn't really there. You know, in the show, it's more like the war's been going on for ages and refugees have been slowly going towards Ba Sing Se because it's the last place left as the Fire Nation has taken more and more land. But the other part of this is that they're clearly combining all of this with the episode The Chase, which is where Azula and Co are right up close behind Team Avatar. They're tracking them down, at least to this fight between, all of them at once in this little village. It's where they don't get any sleep at all. And they're seemingly taking that concept and sort of stretching it out and combining it with the Serpent's Pass, a little bit of the drill, bit of work, maybe the desert. Though that being said, I don't think we're going to get the drill. I don't think we're going to have the big mecha project that we get in the series, which is, to be honest, probably a good call. Like, the episode itself is a little bit rushed. I love the episode. I'm just saying that if you're going to make changes, you can probably take out the drill without losing a huge amount.
The Earth Kingdom is going to fall.
We also get our first shot of Ba Sing Se, and I noticed two things. First off, Ba Sing Se looks fantastic, and this is very consistent with even Netflix Season 1, where the actual establishing shots, the cities, the locations, they look amazing. Of course they do. It's beautifully animated, and there's a lot of nice set design, but we'll see if the actual stories that they try to tell in these beautifully art-directed places are good. I will say that I like the sense of levels to the city, and that it seems smaller, right? Like, this feels and looks smaller than they show in the actual series.
We have already won. The question is, how much are you willing to lose?
The other thing is Azula has had a glamour up in this trailer, right? You can see that the actress herself is holding herself differently as she acts the character. She's speaking differently. She's costumed differently. One of the problems in the first series is that Azula really comes across as this, like, petulant child almost. Like, she's like prone to anger and lack of self-control, and it was just a very weird vibe, and it didn't feel like the original character. I feel like maybe they listened to some of that criticism, have tried to adjust it for the second season, but again, this is just a trailer. We just don't know. All of the shots in this trailer at least seem to make her look and feel kind of competent and confident in a way that she didn't seem in the first season. It still has that awkwardness, which maybe live action is prone to. You know, the way that the characters move when they're bending is very animated, it's very elastic. You know, characters can jump and contort in ways that it's very hard for real people to do. And given that they're filming on this, circular animation green screen stage, you end up with these shots where it's just so clearly green screened and the characters can't quite move as creatively as they do in the original series. So there's still a little bit of awkwardness, but, I don't know how much of that can be helped. I think Zuko still looks great on that front.
The Earth Kingdom is going to fall.
There's a Fire Nation army just beyond the wall.
There are a couple of lines from Aang and Azula, which seem to suggest that Azula is leading an army towards Ba Sing Se. You know, that's kind of like the latter half of this chase thing where they're chasing them towards Ba Sing Se. We get a shot where there is Chong in the background, the secret tunnel guy, you know him. I don't know why he's here. I guess he was at Omashu, and Omashu's going to be part of this season. But don't know why they felt the need to bring him back. Then we get this shot, and we can tell a lot about what's going to happen and what episodes they're combining by this shot alone, because we can see that this is the boat going from Full Moon Bay towards Ba Sing Se, and it's right after the fight scene in the chase where Azula mortally wounds Iroh, strikes him in the chest with fire. You can see Iroh is lying on the ground there. Zuko is looking back at who? Well, it's Azula. And we know it's Azula because there's this other shot where there's someone shooting blue lightning. Take a guess who. You know, this is the last chopper out of Saigon. This is them chasing them down towards the bay. They get onto the boat just as it manages to leave, and Azula is left behind. There's that, again, that chase element involved, where in the series, all of these plot points and fight scenes and story elements are kind of like, you know, spread out, and there's a bit of pacing between them. This all seems like they're sort of combining them. We're combining bitter work and the chase, the Serpent's Pass, all sort of together. Especially because we can see Iroh teaching Zuko lightning redirection at this port, presumably before Azula arrives and they have to flee. We also see that Suki is at the fight scene with Azula, where everyone's sort of ganging up on her, and yet she still wins. It is a great scene, and it makes sense, I think, for Suki to be there. They clearly want Suki to be in the series more, that she's always been sort of this debated element of Team Avatar. And I don't mind this inclusion, especially given they're sort of compressing this story a lot more, and I don't think the story suffers from giving Suki more room. This shot here, we can see Iroh has been hit and Zuko is down at his side. This is that moment after Zuko alone where they finally reunite, and Zuko's realizing that actually, no, he does care about Iroh, he does care about this. This is where his heart really is. We haven't seen any clips or screenshots of a Zuko alone episode, you know, where Zuko's on his own and who would have thought? I'm skeptical that they would skip that. Like, if they skipped Zuko alone, they would have to be idiots, right? Like, they would have to be incredibly dumb. I'll just leave it at that, really. We are going to be getting that change with Zuko in this season, or at least I hope we are, right? But we have this one shot of Zuko looking at something which looks like it's in the Fire Nation, by the way, but if you look at sort of the blur around the edges, I think this is in a dream sequence. It's in that metamorphosis sequence later in the season where he's changing as a person and, you know, reflecting on his values, and he's dreaming about his sister and his father and his mother. I reckon that's what we're seeing here. Alternatively, this could be a shot where he's betrayed Team Avatar, sorry, spoilers, and he returns to the Fire Nation at the very end of the season. We get this lovely shot of Omashu having fallen. That's where season 1 ended, and by the looks of it, by the looks of a bunch of different shots in this trailer, we're gonna get an episode based around them returning to Omashu and trying to rescue a bunch of characters, probably Teo and the Mechanist, trying to rescue Boomy but maybe failing, or Boomy just saying, hey, no, leave me here, my time will come. And I think that is a good call. That's probably where we'll get them to meet Azula for the first time, you know, as a real villain in the series. Toph looks fantastic. No complaints, really. I love the effect that we've got with, you know, her earth bending technique. Though, weirdly, it does look like she's teaching Aang inside what looks like a wealthy manor, like the place that they find her where she lives, which either suggests that they're not going to do the plotline where Toph isn't allowed to earthbend and do dangerous things because she's a blind girl until she decides to leave, but it could also just be that maybe she's doing it in secret against her parents' wishes. I don't know. We do also get that shot from Bitter Work where, you know, Toph doesn't really understand Aang. She doesn't really get that he kind of avoids things and isn't taking the effort to really understand how he works and how he thinks. And so he dodges these boulders that she basically just throws at him. And there is a nice little line where Azula says,
This is the Avatar? Zuzu, he's a little boy.
Which is very funny considering how old the actor for Aang now looks. There are a bunch of different shots of Zuko as the Blue Spirit in this trailer. Now in season 2, Zuko takes on that Blue Spirit persona as sort of like an outlet for his violence and his angst. He uses it to sort of rob some people and to do some shady stuff that he feels a bit ashamed of. He does it as a way of like going back to pursue the Avatar in a way that he feels a bit ashamed about, as if he can hide behind the mask until Iroh calls him out about it, because he's torn between, am I Zuko? Am I this person who wants the Avatar and his father's love? Exactly how they're going to play that story, I don't know, but we do see that he is assaulting people in the dark. And I think we should combine it with this one shot of Iroh while he's tearing up in front of what is clearly an Earth Kingdom home. This is probably from the episode where Iroh and Zuko, after being exiled, they stay at this Earth Kingdom woman's house, and she shows Zuko her burn scars on her body. And this is a really interesting moment where Zuko kind of realizes, oh, I'm not alone in my pain. Other people have suffered in the same way that I have suffered. And yet he gets to that moment where he's not quite ready for that realization. So what does he do? He basically steals from them. He takes their ostrich horse and goes. In the show, Iroh goes with him, but I reckon from this shot, there's a chance that they're going to combine that moment with Zuko leaving Iroh behind and going on his own personal journey, and that's why Iroh is crying here. But perhaps the strangest shot in the entire trailer is this one here. It's only there for a glimpse, but it is very distinctly the Painted Lady. That is right. In the show, Katara pretends to be this spirit called the Painted Lady in order to protect this village. But that village is in the Fire Nation, and this episode is in season 3. The point of the episode is to sort of show that the Fire Nation also exploits its own people, So I'm not entirely sure why it's here or how they're going to do that. My worry is that they're going to take sort of the trappings of the episode, which is Katara pretends to be a spirit to save people, and they're just gonna put that somewhere else. I'm worried that this could be like in season 1, where they had this episode where there's everything spirit world crammed into this one episode to make you go, I recognize that. That's Ko the Face Stealer. That's Wan Shi Tong. That's the Fox Spirit. But none of the reasons that those things were included. Like Ko the Face Stealer just really sucked in the Netflix season 1 series because he just isn't as interesting and complex because they don't have the context for why Aang is going to talk to him. Instead, he's just this predator beast thing. So I'm worried that maybe they're going to do the same thing with the Painted Lady, where they just sort of have it so that Katara pretends to be the spirit, so you go, Katara as the Painted Lady. But it doesn't have the complexity and depth that really made that narrative choice meaningful, So I'm going to look like an idiot when my autopsy of season 1 drops on the same day as this Netflix series, because I completely believed that they were going to cut the library episode. I thought that the only reason that you would include Wan Shi Tong in the first season and make it so that only Aang could understand him for some reason was if they were going to cut the library episode in season 2. And I admit it, I was wrong. It's clearly in season 2. There are multiple shots of it in this trailer. And again, the cinematic nature of it, the scenery itself looks pretty good. They also seem to have, Sokka finding the Day of Black Sun. There's this big astrological thing that he activates and it opens up and moves around. And I think that looks really great. But it doesn't seem like we're getting any references to the desert in which they find it or the sandbenders who take Appa. But it's still not entirely clear when or how Appa is going to be taken. We haven't had any shots of the desert. We haven't seen anything like Aang in the Avatar state after he gets taken, that anger. And he seems to be with them as they're approaching Ba Sing Se. And so there are a few different ways it can play out. Number 1, he gets taken after the Serpent's Pass and they're like filling that part of the story out in a different way. And the plot points are mixed around in a way that would make it make sense. Option 2, he doesn't get kidnapped until he gets to Ba Sing Se and it's just the Dai Li taking him. I reckon that is the most likely solution. But the last option is that they're just not going to have Appa be kidnapped. But they're not going to do that, and we know that for 2 reasons. Number 1, there is a clear shot of Momo curling up inside Appa's footprint. This is an iconic shot from the original series. It shows up in Tales of Ba Sing Se. This is obviously meant to be representing that Appa has gone missing and Momo is missing him. It would be a very strange thing to include in a trailer if they didn't do this. Secondly, the shot of Aang and Appa being reunited, or at least hugging. It looks like a reuniting, doesn't it? It also has this downlight, which kind of suggests that he's in like this prison underground, which is very much fitting with where they would take him. So I reckon it's more likely that they're probably just going to kidnap him at Ba Sing Se, and that's sort of going to be the storyline that they go with. I don't think that's going to be as strong. The real question for me is whether or not they can do the Appa's Lost Day episode. This is a fantastic episode. It's one of those things which really raise Avatar above so many other shows of its era. If he's only kidnapped in Ba Sing Se, then he's not going to go cycling around the world, is he? I don't know. Maybe he gets kidnapped beforehand, maybe he gets kidnapped in Ba Sing Se. We will have to see. There is also this shot where Appa looks bedraggled and dirty in the trailer, and there's nobody on his back, and you might think that, oh, this means that he's kidnapped when he's out beyond Ba Sing Se before they get there, but we actually see that the saddle gets removed in the original show when he gets kidnapped, and also this is probably more reminiscent of the scene in The Chase where they don't get any sleep, and so they end up crash landing into a bunch of trees. In fact, you can actually see the dirt around Appa almost being like a skid that he's crashed into the ground for. We get a bunch of shots of the fights down in the catacombs. It looks like there are two different fights going on here, one in sort of a prison and one in the actual, catacomb glowing gemstone area that the climax takes place in Crossroads of Destiny. It's almost shot for shot with Aang covering himself in crystal and getting booted by Azula's fire blast. So we do get confirmation that Aang is going to learn earth and water and fire in this season. I think they're just going to speed through that, accelerate it. We're going to get a time jump in here where Aang is definitely learning water and he's pretty good at it. That's my bet. Again, I don't think the backdrop here looks that amazing. I think it's a product of how they filmed it, which is on the sort of circular green screen stage thing. It just means that the backgrounds often don't look that real for me. It also seems possibly smaller. I mean, look at the number of Dai Li agents that surround Katara here. Look at the fight scene that between Azula and Aang. It just looks a little bit smaller, doesn't it? And I reckon that is a consequence of that filming stage. We can see Sokka gets captured, Toph gets captured. This is grim stuff. Though we do get this shot, which is definitely Toph discovering metal bending inside her prison. This shot of Suki, though, is interesting. It's interesting because I don't think it really matches any of the other fight scenes that we see in the trailer itself. This could mean that she encounters Appa during Appa's Lost Days. There's a fight scene where the Kyoshi warriors. I don't know. So what does this mean? If we were trying to guess what the episode structure of season 2 was going to be like, I reckon episode 1 is probably going to be returning to Omashu, rescuing a bunch of people, then escaping. That's where we meet Azula. Episode 2, I reckon, is probably meeting Toph, the blind bandit. We're getting a lot of that earthbending stuff. Episode 3, we're getting a bit more of that chase sequence, or possibly the library. And then episode 4, maybe there's more of that chase sequence, but it probably ends with them escaping onto that boat or escaping towards the Serpent's Pass. Episode 6, we get that Serpent's Pass, get to Ba Sing Se, maybe Appa's taken somewhere around there, although I'd prefer it to be before that, obviously. And then episode 7 and 8, we just, sort of get the full Ba Sing Se experience. That's my bet. Curious to see how this is going. There's going to be a video doing an autopsy of the entirety of season 1 coming out on the day that season 2 drops. Looking forward to that. Stay nerdy, guys. Tell me if I missed anything, and I'll see you in the future.